What do you get when you combine an indie Dark Souls, cell shading, a Metroidvania design, and a world named after the two naughtiest parts of the body? You get Blade and Bones. Blade of Bones is a third-person combat and Metroidvania indie game with some permadeath mechanics thrown into the smoothie. It's a blend of exploration, Dark Souls-style combat, and I use that term very loosely, and procedural weapon generation. But is it worth your time and your money, or not so much? That's what I'm going to answer today with a review.
All this and more awaiting for you when you embark on a journey to retrieve the 7 legendary lost swords.
But before we kick it off, I do have a copy of the game to give away to a subscriber. Just comment below and tell me what your favorite Metroidvania game is, and I'll announce the winner on my next video and on my Twitter in the next couple days. You assume the role of the last Orin warrior in Blade and Bones. As one of the 7 godly beings, you defied Nero, the creator of the world of Asocrack.
From his tears the land of Asocrack was created. Nero takes the first 7 swords and spreads them through Asocrack. Spreads them through Asocrack. Spreads them through Asocrack.
And he stole your voices away in return. You must travel the lands of Asocrack to find 7 ancient swords in order to restore your voices that have been lost for over 700 years. Yes, this game loves the number 7. 7 circles form the symbol called the Seed of Life. The number 7 is the number of Neptune. The Bible showcases the number 7 735 times and was originally divided into 7 divisions. There are 7 days in the week, and God's Sabbath is on the 7th day. There are 7 letters in the Roman numeral system, and there are 7 colors in the natural rainbow. So yes, the number 7 was used wisely here, given its outer-worldly and pantheon-inspired background. You are dumped into the world of Blade and Bones with nothing but your bare fists. After being treated to some basic button prompt tutorials that teach you the gameplay basics such as light and heavy attacks, rolls, and the use of signs, and you emerge from the door filled with light to make your way to the main area of the game. So you're in charge of finding the 7 ancient swords to restore the voices of the Orin. So where do you start? Outside the tutorial, there's absolutely no context whatsoever in Blade and Bones, and thus the game starts off in this strangely obscure fashion. The tacky, stock green fields and the sunburst background stare at you while you contemplate your options. You've got a sword, there are enemies, okay great. We can start fighting this stuff, right? Before you do, you may notice that the lack of direction in this game is dramatically inflated due to the cryptic world design. As you wander around the grass and the stone-filled fields of the game, you'll notice that everything feels rather flat. Remember the first time Mario 64 dropped you into Bomb-On Battlefield? You felt dropped into a sandbox, a very square, dish-like bowl. Sure, you could run up and down the hills, but the level itself felt very container-like you were in a casserole dish. Okay for a game that was organized as a collection of isolated levels, but not for a game like this. Blade and Bones feels exactly like that, but 20 years later as an open-world Metroidvania game. It creates an environment that feels cookie-cutter and obtuse. And worse, it amplifies the feelings of, what the hell do I do? Because the game feels so planular and box-like. So you start wandering around until you break into some combat. But the game is very threadbare with combat. You've got basic light and heavy attacks, but very little is used with the animation, damage, or sound effects to differentiate the 2 attacks other than a style system. With this system, you can swap between different stances to alter the style of your weapon swings. It's nice in theory, but it's not implemented well. And the weapon system feels very basic, even for an indie game. Although you have the ability to backdash and roll, it feels clunky and at times it's completely unresponsive, resulting in you taking damage that you knew you would have avoided had the controller inputs registered properly. And the weapon impacts. It feels like you're having a pillow fight, more than swinging a deadly sword around because the game doesn't have any sense of weight behind the combat. The most important part of a combat system is that sense of satisfaction that comes from responsive, dense, and weighty combat, and it's just not there. Taking damage can be restored with life fragments collected from ancient relics, which is where you can find additional weapon secrets too. These relics are often tucked away into the hidden corners of the game, so there's some incentive to wander off the beaten path. However, you do want to be on your guard because permadeath is ever present in this game, depending on how many lives you have in the tank. Once it reaches 0, you'll need to restart the game. The most interesting, although not original idea that Blade and Bones presents is the ability to advance time to alter the time of day, and you can use this mechanic to find secret passages or shortcuts to different kinds of places in the game. I want to quickly point out that the game performs moderately well, with some usual suspects such as minor frame rate dips and camera clipping, but overall it looks decent. In terms of the sound though, I do want to point something out. During the game, there is next to no music. I assume that they were trying to emulate the silent vibe of Dark Souls, but it doesn't work in a game that fails to deliver on a cohesive art style. I'd recommend to put some soothing samurai music or something like that to complement the style of the game that they were striving to achieve. So that's pretty much the game in a nutshell. You'll be wandering around killing stuff, finding ancient swords and relics, and killing bosses every once in a while. Personally, I found the experience to be a little bit bland, although for an indie title, you can certainly do much worse. Is it competent and does it get the job done? Yes. Is it crazy fun and worth your money? Maybe not. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to Downward Thrust now for more reviews and all other gaming goodness, and have a kick-ass day, dudes.